Yes, MLS is back. We are back. The Exploding Heads are back. But more importantly, MLS is back. And the MLS is back tournament for MLS, showcasing some hot, sweet MLS action. Today is no different. We are in Salt Lake City, Anthony Richardson, and Minnesota.
Ian Five Ankles,
former professional footballer turned current pundit. Yep. Ian Five Ankles, who used to play, of course, for the Nebraska Whodunits in the Indoor Soccer League in the mid-90s. Ian Five Ankles, how was your flight?
It was bumpy. I had a little bit of air travel sickness, which was disruptive to the sleep as well. And the person next to me had terminal flatulence. So, yes, I've had better flights.
Speaking of which, the flatulence I'm talking about, a lot of people are asking why we're doing this. People have not heard the story, haven't heard the backstory as to why we are doing this odyssey across America. Well, back in the early 90s, it was my granddad's last wish.
He's not dead though, Anthony.
No, he lives. He just lives in the floor above me. He's got an annex up there in back in my house. So that's what I. Just figuratively, there he is upstairs. Not upstairs in heaven, but upstairs physically up the stairs. He's got a stair lift. His wish was for me to broadcast a emergency football tournament if there happened to be a global pandemic. I wasn't, I didn't take any notice of what he was saying. It sounded doolally to me, but hey, the prophecy has come true, and here we are, broadcasting for the MLS.
Why did he specify I had to come? I never met the guy.
Now, Ian, we're about to talk about MLS, more specifically, the team we're talking about today, Real Salt Lake versus Minnesota United. But first, let's play Wakey Jakey.
Wakey Jakey.
Wakey Jakey. It's ringing out. It's ringing out. That's really disappointing.
That is a shame.
That's one of the hazards of Wakey Jakey, of course. When you're waking someone up, they might have the phone on silent. Now, we're about to preview some hot, sweet MLS action. But first, a word from our sponsor, the state of Iowa. Ian, I bet you didn't realise before you travelled to Iowa how abundant woolly mammoth bones were.
No, of all the things I was expecting when we touched down in Iowa, that wasn't one of them.
I mean, you can't move for them, the locals say. Is that right?
Yeah, I had a chat with someone in the motel. He was on the cleaning staff and he was chatting to me, saying, "You cannot move for effing woolly mammoth bones. I'm sick of them. They're dangerous."
There's a huge pile. When you go towards the airport on the interstate route, there's just a huge pile of mammoth bones dumped in landfill. I mean, that sort of thing, if you took them to the National History Museum in England, you'd make a fortune. But these guys are just... I saw a whole house made of them.
I've put as many in my rucksack as I can. I don't know if that's going to be a problem getting back in through customs, but I fully plan to go and flog the lot at the National History Museum when we get back.
I'm here in Salt Lake City, and let me tell you, it is warm, it is fresh, it is exciting, and there are so many people in their houses, admittedly, but you can see them, and you can see how excited they are for their team going into this tournament. Ian, the Mormons live here. They wrote the cartoon South Park, and they invented the cheese Mormonzola. There's also a giant convention centre here. Looking forward to going there later, although it is closed. They would have had the My Little Pony exhibition at the convention, which is the world's largest My Little Pony fest.
I've had some experience of My Little Ponies. I mean, I'm not a brony myself, but my mate Steve Bold, he collects them. So I've had many a lovely Sunday afternoon watching him plait rainbow dash his hair and make it into pigtails sometimes. That was a particularly enjoyable Sunday.
Gotta say, Ian, that the real Salt Lakeans here, they all rooting for their home team. They can't wait. I mean, I told a few of the guys here, haven't seen anyone but just the Uber driver, and I spoke to someone at the baggage carousel, and they both said that they are surprised and they're shocked that Iowa doesn't have an Expansion 2039 team yet. But they can't wait to, because that could be a natural rivalry, those two states. Imagine them two going at it, Des Moines versus Real Salt Lake. For breakfast, of course, it's a breakfast show. We're showcasing all of the different breakfasts around this great country, plus Canada. I've had a classic American breakfast, Ian, which I asked for, which just turned out to be a bowl of Cheerios. So that was quite disappointing. It's been the worst breakfast I've had so far. Ian, Tell me all about Minnesota. Minnesota, the largest freshwater lake in the country. Is that right, Ian?
It houses part of Lake Superior. Lake Brilliant, more like. I mean, as soon as I got here, I saw that lake, I stripped down to my Speedos and I swam all the way across it. It was brilliant. I felt very refreshed afterwards.
160 miles wide, Ian, so you couldn't have swum across it, not unless you were a big boat.
Yeah. No, I definitely swam across it. I may have only imagined I did that, but my point is it was very refreshing and it's a brilliant lake and no one can take that away from me.
Bob Dylan's from Minnesota. Have you met him there? I bet he's excited and stoked even for the MLS's back tournament.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Tell us about your breakfast, Ian. You must have had a brilliant breakfast there in Minnesota. They call it the home of the cereal.
Well, yeah, although everything was closed when I got here, so luckily I kept a packet of peanuts from the flight, so I had those for my breakfast. Fun fact about America, here they call peanuts chips.
No, that's...
Did you know that?
That's crisps. They call... crisps chips in America. Peanuts they call cashews. We're coming up with the hot preview of Minnesota United versus Real Salt Lake. But first, let's look at our MLS Superfan of the day. Every day we check out a different MLS fan who explains why they think their team is going to win. Today's no exception. Let's take a gander at that little goose.
So the Five Stripes are going to win because they have 5 stripes, which is at least 4 more than any other team in the league, right?
Oh, that was fun. Now it's time for a look at the mascots. Today's mascots are totally out there. They're out of control. They're out of this world even. We've got 2 competing mascots today. Real Salt Lake have Leo the Lion as a mascot, modelled on Leo the MGM Lion. They make him roar before every game. It's hard for a human to roar, so they've put a microphone inside the costume head, which has a little filter on it, so that anything you say will be a deafening, terrifying, bloodthirsty roar.
The problem with that, though, as I can see from the photographs, is the microphone is quite unwieldy, so it makes the lion's head quite misshapen. It looks like it's been stung by a massive bee. It's quite terrifying for the children.
But who would win in a fight in between a lion and a bird? Because Minnesota United, they've got PK the Loon. PK short, of course, for plastic. For the loon, that's their mascot. A loon is a state bird. The state bird, make no mistake, this beloved mascot is a total loon. Crazy the things he gets up to. He pecks things, he... goes to the toilet and he gets up to things he shouldn't be getting up to, and he goes to place it just sounds like it's a giant.
Oh,
do
you know what? I'd love to do a whole show just about PK the Loon. He sounds brilliant.
He is on the badge. There he is on the badge, or a loon, in fact. There he is. The 11 spread feathers, Ian. They represent the 11 players on the pitch.
That's right, yes. But the Union of Substitutes has complained because traditionally they're underrepresented. In fact, they're not represented at all. And that's why Minnesota never use substitutes. And it's getting to be a problem. They tend to concede a lot as the game wears down. If all it takes is just paint on a couple more feathers, I mean, just 3 more feathers, that's all it takes. And Bob's your uncle, but they won't do it. They're loyal to PK the Loon, and it's to their detriment.
The blue line across the logo, Ian, that represents the Mississippi River. But Mississippi, though, they play in Mississippi, so I'm surprised that it's got that on it. Is there a twin town thing going on between Mississippi and Minnesota? Do Mississippi have Minnesota on their badge, the River Minnesota?
No. I spoke to the designer of the Minnesota badge, and he said it was just a nice thing. He liked Mississippi, so he put it on there, fully expecting Mississippi to return the favour. But will they? No, they won't, and they're not budging. There's quite a lot of nastiness going on there.
The grey on either side, what does that represent, Ian?
Existential angst.
Real Salt Lake, they've got Nedum Anua, who used to play for Man City, of course, which makes this probably one of the strongest teams in the tournament, I would say. Minnesota United are managed by Adrian Heath, the Englishman. There's a real ding-dong battle between England. It's England versus England, isn't it? England, Adrian Heath versus England, Nedum Anua of Manchester City. Adrian Heath, of course, won the World Cup with England in 1966.
Now I think you're thinking of Alan Ball.
How similar to Alan Ball is Adrian Heath in management terms?
Well, they've both managed football clubs. I think the similarity ends there. But I always remember Adrian Heath playing for Everton, and I've read, as part of my research for this programme, I've read he scored 71 goals for Everton. I mean, that is, nobody's going to get a chance to score 71 goals in a single game.
It says here, though, that they were over 226 appearances, Ian, so it's not quite as impressive as... What does he bring to the Minnesota table with his Englishness, Ian?
Well, he's a Geordie, so he brings his Geordie wit, his bonhomie, and briefly, he brought his son. He signed his son. He played only 4 times, did Harrison Heath. What a name that is, Harrison Heath. Yeah, his son only played 4 times and then moved on and is never spoken of again.
Well, it's interesting, Ian, because... as at work, you have a bring your child to work day. Many managers have the same thing. Steve Bruce brought Alex Bruce around with him many a time until he was actually expressly forbidden by the chairman not to buy his son. And it looks like Adrian Heath is carrying on that proud nepotistic tradition. Now it's time for the Iowa Predict the Score prediction competition. This is the only score prediction game that's sponsored by the state of Iowa in the entire world. So there's a bit of pressure on our shoulders to come up with a different Iowa fact every single day. I lost my notes on the plane on the way here. I got the wrong baggage on the carousel, swapped it accidentally, so I've lost my attaché full of notes. But let me tell you this, Ian, at my hotel room, the Airbnb motel in Des Moines, I saw 3 flies buzzing around. How many flies did you see in your Airbnb motel room last night?
I can't top that. I only saw 1, but it was a really big one, so I don't know if that counts or anything.
And there we have it. You heard it here first. It'll be 3-1 to Real Salt Lake, but Minnesota United scoring 1 big goal. So there we have it, Ian. Gonna get back to Des Moines later on this evening, ready for sitting back, relaxing, kicking back, and watching some MLS hot sweet action. My hotel room television is not working, so I'm gonna come round to yours if that's okay.
I don't have one.
Yeah, so gonna watch it probably in the hotel bar or the airport. Maybe we can meet each other after the flight, get to the hotel. We might as well stay the night because we're off again the next day. So let's just stay at the airport tonight, Ian. Pull an all-nighter. Sit back in the airport bar, which I know from experience stays open all night, 24 hours long, that old bar stands for. Just an orange juice for me, barkeep, because and some coffee. I've got some hot preview action tomorrow. Don't even know where we're going, but we'll see you next time on MLS Breakfast.
I'm going to Chicago, I think. I don't know. Bye.